Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open the meeting on, what's today, August
9.
9th at 7:03 PM.
Second.
Moved and seconded to open the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, so this is the August 9th, 2023 meeting of the Groveland Conservation Commission. We have a pretty full agenda this evening, so we'll try to move through it as much as possible. And we've got 4 hearings that we'll go through. A couple of them are continued from our last meeting in July, and we got a couple of new ones. Then we'll be talking about some other permit requests and business issues before we adjourn. So we're going to take a motion to reopen the hearing for 27 Wood Street, notice of intent.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to open the hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, so we've got continuation. This is a new single-family house to be built at 27 Wood Street. We did do a site visit week before last, I believe. Yes. Yes, we did a site visit on August 2nd.
Good evening.
Hi.
For the record, Michael Seacamp Environmental Consulting, and I'm here with Jay Ogden, the applicant for the project. And as you mentioned, we did a site visit last Wednesday. I think most of you were there, maybe all of you were there. Be happy to answer any questions. I know we had several questions at the time. Oh, thank you. Okay. Is that better?
Oh, that's for the TV.
Ah,
Yes.
got it.
And
Yeah, okay.
How'd that intermittent stream look yesterday?
Yeah, I bet it was cooking. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen quite the flooding that we have.
There's a lot of rain.
Yeah.
So I have a question on the culvert that you're gonna put in from the road, get down in near the wetlands there.
Yeah.
So that's, after the site visit, that's quite a drop from the road down. Can
Right.
you just kind of give a little description of how this culvert is gonna be constructed?
I'll defer to Mr. Ogden.
I believe the culvert was designed to be 3 feet wide, 2-foot clear opening. It would be down at, obviously, the wetland grade. And then it would be constructed with precast shade concrete blocks, which would construct a retaining wall on both sides of the driveway up to the current road height. So that should have a curb on both sides of the driveway to prevent any runoff off the driveway over the sides.
All right, and then it's gonna be, if you're gonna put that down at the wetlands, it could be fill on top of that.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
That's why they have to do the remediation, because they're taking away some wetland areas, so they have to make up for it.
All right, thank you.
I apologize, I missed it, but on the plans, it doesn't show an elevation because just on memory from the site walk, you probably have a good 6-8 feet from where the stream is to the top of the road, so you're putting a culvert that's 2 feet, so you probably have 6 feet of fill, and then for the winglets, the retaining wall, like how large is that overall?
The plan view, I think, shows the horizontal extent of that.
Can you point it out to me?
Sure. The shade blocks would start kind of at this point, and move to this point, and those would be essentially level. And in the middle of the actual stream crossing, I believe the drop is 7 feet. from the wetland
To the top
the
of the
road
pavement.
surface.
Yeah.
Right, so there's about a 7-foot wall, we'll call it, on both sides, and then you're gonna slope down from there down to the bank.
The wall's kind of designed to be
It's like a
more or less
retaining
vertical.
wall.
It's a precast built on site.
Right, so this part is vertical,
Yep.
and then, I guess instead of having winglets coming out, you're just grading from like this, I mean, it's not vertical with nothing there, you see the slope. I'm just trying to visualize what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, I don't believe there's any proposed new grading.
Okay, so that's,
So it's just
because,
like a retaining wall.
There's a small grading change right here,
right, okay.
but essentially.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, it would be like a 6-foot wall. And then it goes down about over the hill.
So all the fill will be basically in between the two areas.
Right.
The road and where parts of the hill.
To your point, I believe these two contour lines do signify some amount of fill here, which is calculated into the area that's being disturbed.
Right. And what, so it's been determined as intermittent, but what if there's a flooding event, is there enough, is that gonna get scoured underneath, or is that gonna?
No, that opening will take care of
It'll take care of
any
all the flow.
flow. Yeah.
Yeah, the opening's not constricted like a typical pipe would be. It's 3 feet wide, 2 feet tall, with 6 inches of, I forget what they call those things on the bottom. But it's
Oh, the
pretty-
baffles.
pretty
Yeah, the
wide.
baffles.
Quality surrounding.
Yeah.
It's not gonna erode.
Yeah.
Yep.
It reduces the scouring power of the water flow.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Any comments or questions from the audience? No? Okay. Do we have everything in order as far as paperwork in?
Yep, all payments have been received, the application's full. I've printed out the
I got to give you that last time.
legal notice, the mailings are all set. This has been issued a DEP number, and the DEP had no comments.
Just out of curiosity, how many butters are here
For this?
for this hearing? I'm sorry. 4 hearings. For this hearing, how many butters are here?
Nobody.
Okay. So now's the time to ask questions that are related to the wetlands. This is not a planning board meeting. That was, was there a planning board meeting?
It was during COVID.
Okay, so that's ancient history. But if you have wetlands concerns, this is the time to bring them up. If they're not wetlands related, this is not the time to bring them up. But we don't want you to leave and say, I wish they'd said something about where the stream was going or something. So,
So wetland concerns?
wetland concerns.
Yeah.
For 27 Wood
With the
Street.
second letter, that was the first time it was addressed, that certain buildings for egress, I assume that's exiting, within 100 feet of bordering.
Oh, well, different hearing.
Yeah, so this is 27 Wood Street, only, if it concerns 27 Wood Street.
100 feet?
27 Wood Street.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
All
I
right,
just
so-
wonder if there's
yeah.
a place for another wetland consultant to take a look at the mitigation plan, mediation plan.
We don't typically do that for a single-family house.
Okay.
you know, because it's expensive.
I'm just worried that the stream is less intermittent than it has been.
But if they're not changing the flow, then
Okay.
it really shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Okay.
Just tell us why it's intermittent. Tell us why it's intermittent.
It's intermittent because the watershed is too small to support year-round flow. That stream this year obviously is flowing pretty well. It's still flowing. I suspect that in any normal year, by this time of year, it's dry, except when we get a rainfall, like a thunder shower or something like that.
Well, last
It's
year,
not-
for instance.
It's not
it
even
was-
shown on the USGS as a stream, so.
Right. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when we were up the sidewalk, the criteria was, I think it was any 4 days in a normal calendar year, meaning no drought conditions or something like that. If it dries up, it's considered.
Right.
So,
Any 4 days, if it's shown as, if it's not shown on the USGS or if it's shown as intermittent, then it's presumed intermittent. If it is shown as perennial, but you can show that any 4 days during the year that it's not during a drought, then a perennial stream can be deemed intermittent as well.
So it'd be reclassified.
It could be reclassified in that location.
Yeah. Thanks. All right, so I guess we are ready to offer a motion on the permit.
So I make a motion, we approve the plans for 27 Wood Street for the stream crossing and wetlands application and the, oh my gosh.
Culvert.
No, the mitigation area that they're replicating, please.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve the application as submitted, I believe. Any further questions on the motion? Okay, hearing none, then we'll take a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the single-family home and application as submitted for 27 Wood Street, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I did put the plans in front of you in chronological order of the agenda, the ones that are folded up at the front of the table, if you were wondering what those were. Sorry, I forgot to mention.
She's gonna make us successful in spite of ourselves.
You do have all the regular 8x12s in front of you, except for the manner, the plotter was giving me a world of trouble today, so. But anyway. Mike, can we also get a motion to close that public hearing for,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Yeah. Before we start the next one, I just want to make a motion to close the hearing
Close the
on
hearing on
27
27.
Wood Street.
Second.
that.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, so our next hearing, make a motion to open the hearing, reopen the hearing for 6 Katy Lane, formerly 106 King Street, Lot 8. Notice of intent for new single-family home Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Go ahead, Bill.
William Holt for the applicant, the engineering designer. And the applicant, Kevin Tennant, present as well. And as you know, we had a site walk last Wednesday and reviewed the staked hay bale line, or the erosion control line. We reviewed the location of the house and the septic that were staked. The house and septic are, septic is outside the buffer zone. All the utilities are outside the buffer zone, 100-foot buffer zone, and the driveway is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. The house is 78 feet from the wetlands, which meets the requirement of the local bylaw for 75-foot setback to buildings. About 460 feet of the house were located in the buffer zone. We also have a bunch of grading to do for the septic and house location. Once you build a house, we got to grade around it. And that is in the buffer zone from the 100-foot to 25-foot buffer zone is approximately 4,000 square feet. And then there's, I'm sorry, from the 100-foot to 25-foot no disturb zone is 8,000 square feet of work. And we staked out the hay bale line, or the silt erosion control, and also the 4 conservation bounds at the site. I don't know if you have any questions on that stakeout. Any questions on what it looked like, or if you recall, when you walked it, you'll probably notice that it's a field right now, and the work limits are the erosion control, and those are all outside, all in that field, and not inside the woods at all. There's no disturbance of any trees on the site as a result of the work. Again, we comply with DEP buffer work standards and also stormwater management standards, and we also comply with all the local bylaw setbacks for building and disturbance. Septics is 100 feet out, so I don't know if you have any other questions, I can answer them for you. Or
Any questions from the site visit? Did you make it, Bill?
Yes, I was
Oh, good.
there, yeah. No, I think it was good to see it, actually see it, you know, in terms of the layout, but I think everything he said is on the paper,
Yeah.
and so.
Did we get the markers all moved up to 75 feet?
if they are at either 75, there may be one that's not.
Sorry, Bill, I wasn't able to print that out, and I wasn't able to get it up on the screen either. We've been having,
We have a copy of it here, we can bring up. I staked out, it was 4 bounds, there's one at the property line, right here with lot 7, and that is at the 100-foot buffer zone.
The 100, yeah.
This is, one's at the 75, this one is not. This one is at about 50, I believe it is, and that one's at 75. So the only one that's not is the one that's right here, there's some grading that we need to do to flatten this out and then bring it back down to the grade. But it does, it's obviously, it comes back down to 25 at the, with the grading. So it's not beyond the 25-foot no disturb zone. But other than that, the rest of them, 3 out of the 4 are at 75 or 100.
I thought we wanted them all at least 75.
We're moving that.
What we talked about?
I thought, that's what I get on my notes.
Yeah, applicant will agree to move it up. If you'd like, we can change the plan and move it up to the 75, which would be somewhere in here. That's desirable.
I think that's what we
I
wanted.
think that's what we talked about last time,
Okay, I can make that
so they can be
change.
consistent.
talking about this one here?
Yeah, so if you can move that one at least 75 or further away, that'd be great. And just update the final plan.
You can do that.
Any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience or abutters? Nope.
Mr. Chair, can I just make a comment? While everything from our perspective, as far as the application being completed, the, legal notices going out correctly, the DEP has just not issued a notice of intent number for this yet. Kevin, I don't know if you've been able to get in touch with them?
I did.
Okay,
Somehow they don't have a check sent to them,
okay,
so I haven't followed up and sent them
okay. We're just not able to issue an order of conditions until a DEP number is issued.
You can close the hearing, though, correct?
I think we'll just continue it until we're meeting again in 2 weeks. So we'll just continue to 2 weeks from today. Make sure that we still have, that we've got the DEP number, then
Yeah.
we'll close it all out.
Because if we close the hearing, they can't make the vote to accept it, or approve it, I should say. Sorry, took me a second to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'll make a motion to continue the hearing for 6 Katy Lane to our next meeting on August 23rd.
Second.
Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
August 23rd?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to even be here for that if they... Right, I mean, if it's just a matter of, if it's just an administrative, they don't have to be here.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, so,
No, we're not, the commission can't issue orders of conditions when there's no DEP number.
right, no, I understand, that, but I'm just saying.
And, yeah, that's kind of, I understand why Bill asked to close the public hearing, because
Yeah.
then there's no more discussion on it, but we can't make a vote
Right.
we can't talk about it anymore, so. Puts the cart before the horse.
We continue this.
Everybody's back?
Everybody's back.
Yes, good.
for a minute.
All right, so I'll make a motion to open the hearing for One Manor Drive. It's a notice of intent for some construction on existing buildings with,
I'll second it.
I'm going to recuse myself from this one, too. I'm going to sit in for this.
all in favor of opening the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Members of the commission, my name is Paul. Thank you. Members of the commission, my name is Paul Bergman. My company, Bergman and Associates, put the application together. Annie asked me to bring 3 sets of plans.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Sorry, like I mentioned earlier, we were having some issues with our plotter, and it would only print it in little 12x8s, which is not very helpful. Thank you for bringing those.
You asked me to bring 3, right?
Yep, I did.
But they see 5.
That's all right, we'll
We can
share.
share.
Yeah, otherwise it gets a little too crowded up there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I have green cards, Annie.
Hand them on over. Thank you. Perfect.
This is actually everything. That's our receipts. Or I
Perfect.
keep the receipts.
You can, oh, these, if you want to, you
Yeah,
can.
I
Yeah,
probably
absolutely.
So this property is diagonally across the street, as you folks probably know. And this is where that really bad fire was, maybe a year or so ago, in one of the buildings. As you pull into Manor Drive from 113, the building's the fourth on the right-hand side as you're going counterclockwise. The chairman and Annie actually came out to the property and met with us several months ago, and then I was here one night, maybe a couple of months ago, to give the commission an update on where we stood. And the building that had the fire, Building Inspector Jocelyn is requiring a balcony and stairs off the back of the building. What balcony was there was apparently demolished after the fire, and so the new footprint and stairs for building, it's building 2, it's really confusing. It's the fourth building in the line, but it's called building 2. So the balcony and the stairs for building 2 are shown in the plan, and then I believe Inspector Jocelyn required Arrow Point Properties, they're the owner, to put stairs on all of the buildings. So there are 7 buildings, again, all in a row as you're going counterclockwise on Manor Drive, and those 7 are within buffer zones. Mike Seecamp, front row, he set 31 flags out at the property. 11 through 19 are for an intermittent stream, and the remainder are for BVW. On the plan, you can see the stairs. So just to be clear, Building 2 is getting a brand-new balcony and new stairs. The remaining 6 buildings that are within the buffer zone are getting stairs because they already have balconies. And then the other issue that the chairman and Annie pointed out at that visit we made, a few months ago, there was a sump line that was emptying out into the street, and they were concerned about that. So temporarily, they rerouted that sump line out of that building out back towards the stream, and there's a sock around the end of the sump line, and there's also silt fencing, silt lines, erosion control out back there also. And I suggested, I think the last time I was before the commission, I suggested to the owner that he reroute the sump lines for the remaining 6 buildings, either out to the stream or out to the BVW. And that's what this plan also indicates. The sump line is a 2-inch PVC line, and they're going to replumb it in the basement of the building, core a hole through the back foundation wall, and then the sump line is going to go underground out to a rip-wrapped area next to the BVW of the stream.
Sorry, can I just ask a question? So when you were here last, there was a question whether any of the buildings had it, so you have confirmed all the buildings do have some pumps?
Yes, I have. Also on Building 2, because the building commissioner is requiring sprinklers for that building, there's a 4-inch fire suppression line that comes out the front of the building, so it's really removed from the stream, but part of that is within the buffer zone, so there's a 4-inch CLDI line that comes out that building, and it ties into the water main out in Manor Drive. I think I've covered everything.
So I just want to understand correctly, the deck on the back of building 2 is larger. Is that because they're adding a 3rd floor? The deck and the stairway, or is it just for some other reason why it just looks different?
Yeah, the stairs are, you can't really see it in plan view, but because there is, thank you for mentioning the third level, by the way. So there's a balcony on the third level. That will have stairs down to the second level to landings, and then another set of stairs down to the ground. So that all three levels are afforded with, right, this is right. Because apparently, and again, this all started with the building inspector, rightfully so, in my opinion. Apparently during the fire, there were people that got out onto the rear balcony that was there at the time, but there were no stairs.
And so why are they adding a third floor to this building?
That's where Arrow Point is going before the time. It's simply to add 2 more units, is my understanding.
I can speak to that more as I work with the zoning board as well, if you have questions specific to that aspect of it.
I mean, just the whole building is within the 100-foot buffer zone.
They're not adding any square footage, though. It's simply just height.
The footprint remains the same
Yeah.
for what's there today. We don't have anything to do, at least yet, with the zoning application.
The zoning application's been approved. It was approved last Wednesday,
Oh,
just
okay.
so you know. Yep.
Thank you.
So it is going to be 3, there's an additional unit or additional 2 units?
I believe it's going to be 2 units.
Yeah, these buildings, there's 2 on the first floor, 2 on the second
Yeah.
floor.
Which I don't know if they're going to do 2 on, like 1 big one on top. I would assume 2, but.
I mean, they might not be adding square footage, but that's adding population density to,
It's
To the
also
wetland.
affordable housing. And we don't have apartment buildings in town. Sorry, I'm wearing my zoning hat.
no, I like the idea of apartment buildings and affordable housing, but not in wetland. I don't. No.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah.
So, Mike, can you tell us about this intermittent stream?
Yeah, when you come in on the, thanks, when you come in on the, on Manor Drive, on the right, there's bordering vegetated wetland, very thick vegetation. But as you go up slope, the BVW narrows down and the lawn comes right to the edge of the intermittent stream. And then as you get up behind Building 2, which is the 4th building on the right, it levels off, and then you have BVW that goes all the way north until you hit a steep slope where the water is actually emanating from the toe of the slope. And so it flattens out again, so you have more BVW up there. It looks like it's a pretty high water table, because when I was there, and this was probably 6 weeks ago maybe, it was pumping. So it's got a high water table, so that's one issue that needs to be addressed, and it sounds like Mr. Bergman's company is taking care of that. It's pretty straightforward, though, as far as the intermittent stream. It actually has a bank.
And so, in your opinion, tell me what you think of 7 sump pumps exiting into that area, what effect that might have in a heavy rainstorm.
It needs to be dissipated, and it sounds like the riprap, I haven't seen the plan. I assume they won't all be exiting in the same location.
Yeah.
It'll be spread out.
There,
So that water's gonna make it down to the bottom when you get to Route 110, and the BVW down there eventually anyway. So as long as it's clean, that's the most important thing. About all I can add to that.
Yep, yep.
And so the only way we can ensure that is with the sock on the end of the,
Or the riprap.
Sump?
The riprap.
The riprap.
Yeah, to be clear, as Mike just alluded to, it's water from a sump in the basement, and that's groundwater, so it is clean water. I know Michael's concern when they had the sump dumping out onto Manor Drive, it was picking up all kinds of stuff, and it made its way down Manor Drive, and then re-entered the wetland down by the entrance off, is it 113?
Yeah.
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 So as Paul just said, the groundwater's not coming in through the walls, it's coming up from the ground. So the sump pump picks it up before it even gets to the basement floor.
I think I asked this last time, I just want to be sure, there's no oil tanks in any of these, they're all natural gas?
Correct.
So it would, it's the only thing that could be contaminated would be if the people there had some paint or something in the basement, like that.
And they'd have to dump it into the sump pump.
Into the sump pump, right?
Into the sump, yeah.
The sump
Because
side-
even if it's on the cellar floor, it wouldn't have an effect
Wouldn't
if the
fill
sump
that.
pumps are working properly.
And all the buildings actually have basements?
The,
Like-
the ones we looked at, yes, yeah, all 7. Yep, big basements. The sumps that we looked at, they were in different areas of the basements of the buildings, and they're about 2 foot square. They have like a plywood cover, and then thank you. And so, as I said earlier, Arrowpoint would have to get a plumber to replumb that sump inside the basement. And if I was doing work, I'd core a hole in the back wall about a foot and a half below ground level. And then you trench the sump line out to the BVW or the swale, so you don't see the sump line. And then again, as Mike said, as the plans indicate, the sump lines go into a rip-wrapped triangular area to dissipate the water.
And that's standard.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty, the rip-wrapped area is 3 feet by 4 feet. We're talking about a 2-inch line, so it's a little bit overkill, but I'm erring on the conservative side. 4-inch riprap, and then there's crushed stone beneath that for the, so the, and again, to be, I didn't say this, but there's no filling. If anything, it's just scalloping out a little bit of area where the swale exits into the wetland.
And may I add, all those areas are currently maintained as lawn, is that correct?
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
So that was going to be my question, the way it's shown on the plan, it's sort of right on the edge of the BVW, but the intent is to actually do it in the lawn area and not
Right.
go beyond that?
Right, yeah. The other thing, it's kind of minor, but on, I don't know what building number it is. Yeah, it's 20. The first building on the right happens to be 20. Those stairs are also sideways, and the reason for that is so that we didn't cut into the tree line, or all the other stairs just exit straight out perpendicular. So we were mindful of that.
So do the commissioners want to go take a look at this?
Yeah, that'd be great, actually.
If we could do a site visit before our next meeting, that would be nice.
Do you guys have constraints?
Always.
I happen to be off this weekend. I work every single day next week, and then I'm off next weekend, the 19th and 20th.
Can we do either the 17th or 18th or the 21st or Monday night, the 21st?
I won't be here.
No?
No.
How about Friday night, the 18th?
I will be away.
Yeah,
I-
away.
Work. Are you guys both away on the Monday, too?
I'm here on the 21st, I'm here on the 14th.
I work every single day, 14th or 18th.
Yeah,
This Friday.
I'm going to be away for a week, so,
We can get it all weekend, that's fine.
yeah.
Make it quick.
So what are some other dates then?
Tomorrow?
I'm working.
No,
it
I can't
depends.
do tomorrow.
Are you gone the whole week of the 21st, both of you?
No, I'll be
No,
back
I'm
on the
just-
22nd.
What about the 22nd?
The 18th, I can do the 22nd.
22nd?
Tuesday? Yep.
Evening.
Like 4, 5 o'clock,
Yep,
something?
I could do that.
Yep.
Does that work for you guys? Okay.
At what time, sorry?
Which is better, 4?
5's probably
5? 5 good?
Fine.
Okay. 5 p.
August 22, Tuesday,
I think they said 5.
5 PM.
Does that work?
Five PM on the 22nd?
Yep.
It's a Tuesday.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, thank you.
I just sent you all a meeting invite.
Oh, thank you.
We have the DEP number on this one?
Yes, the only DEP number we didn't have was for 6 Katy Lane.
DEP, any offer any comments?
I'll double check, but when I looked before, no.
I think there's an abutter here too, Bess.
Yep.
No technical
No
comments from the
comments
DEP.
Okay. How about any comments from abutters? Any questions from
So
the audience?
Will this affect any of the wetlands around the area right now? Like the water coming from the building, I mean, is that gonna affect the wetlands that exist right now?
That's a good question. I would say that's a good question.
Where does the existing sump pumps go?
The only one that we know of is building 2. The other ones exit the wall. And we suggested to Arrow Point, the property owner, to use this opportunity before the commission to reroute the sump lines out to the wetland and the stream.
So you mean for the other buildings, there's currently a sump pump, so water's coming out, but it's just some wall somewhere.
I honestly,
Right.
the only one I know about is the one that had the fire.
But, okay. So the assumption then is the total water on the site is just sort of, it's going back in the groundwater, probably being pumped out, whatever, a couple hours, a couple days later.
Yeah. So in some way, this is going to be better because the water is all being put into the stream and carried away. So in theory, anyway, it's going to be not as much water staying on the site, right?
I'm not a botanist, but Mike, I don't know if you can chime in to.
Well, not knowing where the other 7 sump pumps go, it's hard to imagine that they're not making some impact somewhere on the site. If you get them into the intermittent stream, then that will prevent problems downslope of the buildings, and you'll see that when you go through your sidewalk.
Yeah.
The whole site is a gentle slope going up the hill. At the top of the hill behind the buildings, there's a wetland. So that's why you have a high water table on the whole site. You get the water over to the intermittent stream, the site's going to be drier and the wetland's going to be wetter, I guess would be the way to put it, because of surface water coming through the surface.
Yeah.
So to clarify, we're putting sump pumps in all of the buildings or just building 2?
No, these 7.
All 7 are getting the
There
sumps? Okay.
there are some
Okay.
pumps
Yeah.
in them. This is, I would say, a redesign.
Up for all of them, not just
Control.
number 2?
Right. Right. Yeah, and that's what they've got them all coming
As
in.
a butter, how often do the other sump pumps kick in? Does anybody have any sort of data on that? Because it looks like there's one apartment that has a real problem. And the other ones, they might come in every 4 months.
Yeah,
I mean, is there a way to ask the residents?
I think you'd have to put a meter on the sump pump or something to record the amount of time.
Well, I know when my basement floods, like yesterday, and presumably if they've got stuff stored down there, they would periodically check on it, maybe particularly after big rainstorm. So maybe they know that, yeah, we've seen it once this year, we've seen it 5 times this year, we haven't seen it in 4 years. It's worth asking. I mean, this may be almost a non-issue. Except for
This
the one.
building's not completely molded.
I know that the groundwater elevation will vary during
Again,
the
it
year.
depends.
Mike will
We
back
know
me
that
up on
one's
that.
bad.
You know, at least here in New England,
Oh,
it
yeah.
does vary. And as you said, I mean, yesterday was an aberration, an anomaly.
I mean, Terry's saying one of them is really
Yeah.
bad.
This-
That's-
These were built in the
Number two?
sixties. I think if they had to do it all over again, they all should have been higher.
Well, they wouldn't be where they are, that's for sure.
I mean, basement floor higher than what it is today, to maybe even negate the need for a sump pump. But here we are, 23, and again, you know, I'm repeating myself, but we're just using this opportunity with this notice to replumb those other 6 buildings.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue the hearing for One Manor Drive to our next meeting on August 23rd, with a site visit to be held on August 22nd at 5 PM.
Second. Did you have questions on Manor Drive? I just want to clarify. Did you have questions on this property?
No.
Okay.
I live in Fairview Circle, I'm in a butter.
To Manor Drive?
Yeah, yes.
Because you had spoken up earlier, so I just want to make sure you don't have questions.
Well, it's the wetlands I'm concerned about. And I think it's very vague the way it was described in the letters, because it said, certain buildings for egress. What does that mean? What buildings? How many buildings? And would construction of an egress or more, would the machinery interfere with the wetlands? I really enjoy hearing the peepers in the spring, you know?
So I think it might help if anybody can come and take a look at this, but it seems like, so all of the decks are existing, except for building 2, they're gonna be rebuilt.
Correct.
And all of the buildings are getting second means of egresses. Every building in there will be getting a second means of egress. It's not, it's just that there are certain buildings that are jurisdictional to the Conservation Commission that require a filing.
Okay, yes.
So it's a
Yeah, yeah, kind
Yeah,
of. Right. Yeah,
This is the building.
right, and that's the one I want to put a third edition on,
Yes, we are, yeah.
right? But, okay, would they want to continue that with the other building,
Continue what,
extending them up?
not that I know of.
I can speak to that aspect of it a little further from the zoning board meeting. You're asking about if they, ooh, sorry, that was loud. You're asking about expanding upwards on other buildings?
Yeah, I mean,
So-
let's start with one, would they continue with the rest?
No.
So From the zoning aspect of it, that meeting was last Wednesday, and at that meeting, the AeroPoint, the property management company who owns the manor, the zoning board did ask that exact same question, and at the time, the AeroPoint has no plans on expanding any other buildings. They see,
have to be issued, to the committee, if they go one at a time or whatever for each building?
so there's a lot of different things they would have to do that. Right now, as I mentioned, the zoning board meeting last week, they had to ask for a modification of their special permit from 1961 to construct that third floor. Because, I mean, the special permits I write these days for the zoning board are like 7 pages long. The one from 1961 was 2 sentences. So it's a little vague, which required them to come in for a modification. If they were to do other buildings, they would have to come in for a further modification. And you mentioned you had received the notice for that, correct? So you would again receive a notice. Additionally, if they add any more than 4 or more units, they trigger our inclusionary zoning of affordable housing bylaw, which is, I will not get into that right now because that is a rabbit hole, but they're going to have to do a lot of further, and then that doesn't even begin to enter the conservation aspect of things as well. So you'd be getting a lot of mail if they choose to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Looking at this map, and if everybody, when all completed with the sump pumps go in, and they go into the wetland, is the drainage, I think you call it, the pipes going to take it to the river, or wherever it goes, is it going to be big enough to handle all this? Because I have the property at 204 Main Street, and that water constantly backs right up there. It doesn't flow like, I mean, you'd think you could go out there and you could put a pedal in there and you would assume it would flow down the stream. We've gone out there and we've watched it, and it's stagnant, and it has, all kinds of mosquitoes, everything in there. So I'm wondering if you do this, is it going to contribute to more of a backup going back of, like, it's 204 Main Street. My neighbor, he's right across the street. He's the house before mine, but between me and the man, I think he might have seen that too. So I'm curious of what kind of piping, and is it going to, create a problem in the near future, especially when you do get a rainstorm. And now it's going to be really like double the overflow between some pumps going and the rain coming in. Right now, the water is probably about, 6-7 inches deep, and there's a cul-de-sac right in the middle of the yard, and it's still, the water, like I said, stays stagnant.
I don't think they're not increasing, and please chime in if I get something wrong, they're not increasing the total water that's in that watershed area. They're just, instead of putting a sump pump, we don't even know exactly, but let's say 2 feet off of the building, it's going whatever, 50 feet.
I was just
Toward the
concerned
stream.
that the overload for the backup.
No, valid consideration, but I don't think, I'm not a hydrology expert, but my guess is the watershed area is what it is. They're not bringing any new water into that watershed area overall, so
But
if that's
if they're
the only
redirecting
outlet.
it, like, I do wonder if that's going to change anything, it's being redirected from its current status, all 7 of them.
Right, and since we
Yeah.
don't know, we don't know where that water's going
Yeah.
now. That's the crazy
So
thing.
I don't know what's going to happen when it's redirected.
So I think when we do our site visit, can we come and look at at the end of Manor Drive? You're right next to the end of Manor Drive.
What was your
right?
address again?
It's right across the street.
Oh, the 2 of you? What's the address there?
It's a little white cake directly across the street.
Okay, okay.
And you could go by any time, and it's got all that wildlife, that it's.
Has a swale, it backs up, it does back up.
So my concern was, by adding more water into it,
Right.
Yeah,
it's going
well,
to create
let's-
Yep.
Let's take a look at it
back
so
up
we
even more,
understand.
Yep.
I hate to see somebody go by and, like a little kid, there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood, they could fall in the drive.
I mean, yeah.
So we'll look at
If I
that.
may, with the exception of building 2, the other 6 buildings was just something that Arrow Point agreed to do at my suggestion. It's additional expense for them. If it's going to be a problem, we'll leave them the way they are, with the exception maybe of building 2.
I mean,
Because building 2 right now just has that temporary sock, and it's, we don't want to leave it like that.
but we don't know what the sump situation is in the other 6 buildings?
So we don't know where the
When-
water goes.
when I
We
wa-
know that they're pumping
They're
somewhere.
pumping somewhere.
They're working, the basements aren't flooding. And it's, again, it's additional expense to do these other 6 buildings,
Mhm.
so if there's concerns, by all
I mean,
means.
I don't know. I
When
guess-
I've been out there and when I went out there, one of my site visits, I looked, because I remember this question came up very, at the beginning. We were like, where are these other sumps going? And there was no trickle of water leaving any of the other buildings. There was no kind of depression that would note. like, kind of-
Did you see the pipe exit the building?
No, but you can't see water exiting the building anywhere.
So has anybody, did they connect it to the sewer system?
That's,
inside the building?
that's another thing to consider. Like, it could be connected to drainage or the sewer that's already in the street. Just to,
I mean, that's easy enough. You go in the basement, you see the pipes going. I mean, we can figure that one out.
Well, they go up the sides of the basement wall, and the line is only 2-inch inside diameter, so you can't even run a camera. I mean, you can barely camera a 4-inch line, so, and they don't have tracer wires on them.
Okay, so then, well, at least in the building, they're not going in the sewer system. So the assumption is you're going to some dry well or something outside of the building.
I swear, I don't know.
Okay.
And we don't even need to know that to replumb the lines. As I said earlier, a plumber will reconfigure the lines in the basement to go up the back walls of the particular building and just cap where it leaves now. So again, if it's a stumbling block for any reason, I know you have a full agenda.
No.
I'd be
this is
happy
good
to go with the
discussion.
lady out in the hall and talk about it more because
Well, I think what we want to do is just look at the whole site,
Yeah.
Look at the end of the stream and see where it goes and, kind of get an idea. Ultimately, we're not going to know because it's going to depend on the flow, which we don't know. So, but it's a good time to look at it now because after the recent rainstorm, at least we see there'll be a definite flow. I imagine everything's going to be flowing even a week from, today.
So sidewalk on the 22nd.
Yeah.
The next meeting is 23rd.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they know about the seasonal restrictions? You inform them the dates?
As far as construction,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. but I can let them
Can you
know.
make sure they understand that? Not that they're out here in December trying to do something.
They're also, I don't know if it's an order from the building inspector, but as far as the egress, and that's nothing I've had, we haven't had anything to do with that either. I think it was an order from Mr. Jocelyn.
If you can make them aware and then understand if there's some potential conflict, like if the building inspector is telling them to do something by a certain date and by the time this all gets sorted, they're sort of in a jam, then we should all talk about it as opposed to
Understood. Yep.
figuring out. And then, the lady brought up a good point on when they're constructing the stairs, are they gonna hand dig the holes, or are they just gonna have like two people holding an auger, or are they bringing a bobcat back there to put the footings in?
I'm not sure about the construction of those. I mean, we do have, erosion control, silt lines around all of the balconies and stairs. And they're farther enough away to leave room for equipment.
What are the details? We just wanna make sure it's correct. I mean, it's only footing, so it's probably dug, poured the same day.
Maybe a
the next
big
day.
foot.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so the motion is to continue to August 23rd. Take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you so much for your input. Thank you. permeable surface at 379 Main Street.
House right on the river. All different.
You guys?
How was that? Where the existing one is, but they didn't. Most likely probably goes to the same, roughly the same area.
Maybe sewer is a better idea.
They can't.
Oh, you can't? Oh.
It's almost straight
Yeah.
across from my property, yeah.
Okay, then a motion to open the hearing for 379 Main Street. It's a notice of intent for the installation of drainage, replacement of driveway, and some stairs within jurisdictional area.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan McSheriff from Red Barn Architecture, 8 to 10 Martin Street in Essex, Massachusetts, and I'm here representing Troy and Lorraine Campbell on their application for a notice of intent at number 379 Main Street here in Groveland. This parcel was in front of you all last fall. We were here to request for determination of applicability to construct a second story over an existing first floor. That work is currently underway. And now we're back in front of you for this notice of intent to include a perimeter drain around the base of the building, as well as entry stairs at some of our egress doors into the building. We are proposing to change out the material of the driveway. We have not picked a final material yet, but the material will be more permeable than the current pavement driveway that's there, the asphalt driveway that's there. And then we are also proposing a small driveway on the, I want to say the east side, northeast side of the building, adjacent to Main Street there. And that is really just a convenience parking spot. The intent there is to install 2 seashell strips to allow for occasional parking on the opposite side of the building. Happy to answer
Oh,
any-
that's what that meant. Okay.
Happy to answer any questions you guys might have or go through the plans in more detail.
Sorry, I haven't read through the whole thing. The total square footage of non-permeable surface, can you, because you're going from an asphalt, how many square feet is that versus you're going to semi-permeable or?
Got it. I don't have that information exactly on hand. I could figure it out for you all.
Just a rough ballpark, I'm curious. Like,
Sure.
Is it more or less about the same?
Scale 1 to 20.
I don't
So we're
remember.
talking about 10
What?
feet. That makes it easy.
You mean the change will be the same?
Yeah, how,
We're going to use the same footprint of the existing driveway, which is about 10 feet by 40 feet, so about 400 square feet.
And the idea is you're going to something maybe that's more permeable. but
Exactly. We're
TBD.
thinking about an open weave paver or something similar to that.
Right, and then
Awesome.
the accessory spot, that would just be, that's permeable because that's just gonna be seashell, crushed seashell or something like that. gravel.
Exactly. Correct.
just trying to recalibrate. So the first floor was already there, that's an existing or legacy household, and then you're putting a second floor on?
So that's what we were in front of you all for last
yeah.
fall. Yep, we did not expand the footprint of
Okay,
the
so
building. It was all over existing footprint.
Yep, okay, awesome.
So where's the boundary lines? Oh, here we go, 100 foot, okay.
Yeah, nearly the entire parcel is within the 100-foot buffer of the river.
Oh, there we go, okay.
Were you guys doing framing in like the February, March timeframe?
Yes, just outside, I think, of the,
April 1 is part of it.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you just show me on this plan where you're putting these clams? Oh, I see, okay, got it. Okay,
Right there.
yep, perfect. Okay.
So the dry well, that's new, correct?
The dry well would be new, correct?
And that is taking the water from the roof and the perimeter drain from the foundation?
Correct.
There we go, okay.
And that is mostly to divert it away from the foundation and the base of the building.
Right.
Because of flooding.
Okay. How does that work with the dry well? I guess I don't really understand what that is. Sorry.
Yeah, so the perimeter drain is installed around the foundation, right nearish to grade, within 12 to 18 inches of grade, and then pitches towards the front corner of the building and then towards the dry well.
And the dry well itself is some sort of pit,
Precisely.
and then it's going to be covered with these two clamshell strips?
Correct.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, the property is actually elevation-wise up from the street a little bit?
It's correct, yeah. The first floor elevation is above the street just slightly. Yep.
Right, there's a couple, yeah, so there's no runoff from the street that's going down on the property or anything, like you're not changing any of that, the curb cut or anything?
Correct.
And are the granite steps, is that gonna be a foundation or just crushed stone? You're gonna dig down a little bit?
So that's one of the reasons we're asking for relief on that, because there will be some minor excavation in the area to set a little bit of a foundation below them. But yeah, it'll be on crushed gravel and that sort of thing.
Okay, all by hand?
I would assume all by hand. I don't think we'll need machinery back there.
It's just 2, 3 steps? How many?
Yeah, I think it will work out to be one step up and in.
Okay.
And you know, now that I think about it, we'll probably need machinery just to move the granite around, but I don't anticipate any excavating machinery necessary to set the base.
So I'm trying to, I guess the only concerns we would have is they need to make, I mean, it's not a big excavation, but that's just taken care of like in a day or two.
Yeah. I'm excited about the permeable surface.
I think that's a reasonable request. You think about machinery staying on site kind of thing?
Well, it's staying on site, you know, if anything leaks or goes wrong, but that's usually like weeks and months. And it's also, you know, you're not creating a huge pile of dirt that's gonna sit there for 6 months. My guess is you're gonna come in, you're gonna scoop a little bit, you're gonna go out front, get some gravel, drop it in there, tamp it down, move the granite. Hopefully, probably for you guys in a day, everything's set.
How
and
big's
you're
the
out
step?
3 feet by 5 feet.
That's pretty small.
I mean, do we worry about erosion control here?
My gut feeling is we don't need to, but we should probably have something in the order that, like, they have to
Clean up or
do it in a day or two and control it.
Did we request, Annie, did we request erosion controls for the previous work?
Yes, we did ask for fencing, but that was to more so keep debris within the limit of the work, which was just to the house,
Yeah, there
and
wasn't
rather than
supposed to be any
blowing.
excavating, it was just
Exactly, it was just more
building materials flying off.
shingles and
yeah.
things of that nature, so it wasn't erosion control for erosion. essentially.
By 3 by 5, you could put 3 bales of hay there and nobody gets hurt.
One sock even on the beams in there.
Is it?
Personally, I'm fine. I mean, if they do it and get it done in a day or 2 days, I'm cool with it. It's more just if you dig and then, in my opinion, if you dig it and you have a pile of dirt and then you don't do anything with it, so that's my concern.
Around the granite steps, you mean?
Yeah,
I feel like that
Right.
dry well is gonna be more excavation than everything else.
Yeah, and that's,
And that's in front of the house, so I don't know.
But the front of the house slopes down the road.
yeah.
Oh, so you would want
No,
It's
erosion
less of a
control?
it's less of a
Okay.
concern.
Okay, okay, cool.
Unless the Merrimack
Well, I'm sure all the,
rises again.
I'm sure all the street drains on the road go directly over there.
That's right.
Well, if that happens, there's gonna be a lot of bigger problems.
Okay.
Do we want to go take a look at this?
I don't need to.
I'm set myself. I know where it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point about the drywall. Any idea if you're gonna dig it? Is like Shay bringing a concrete tube to dump in there, or how's that gonna work?
We hadn't called out for it, but we can certainly take a look at something like that to.
Or
to help
I'm just wondering how quickly it's gonna be dug and then
Oh,
seeded
yeah,
over.
I mean, it is, we're hoping to dig everything, yeah, within a day or so, a couple of days and be out of there. A week max. I wouldn't even think that we'll have, well, we can get material there, ready to go, excavate, plant, cover up, pull out.
What's the timing? If you could wave a wand.
If we could wave a wand, we'd like to get it done before the next deadline for work for you all. Could you remind me what that deadline is?
November 1st.
November 1st, yeah, we would like to get it done by November 1st.
Okay, so you could get back to us with details on what the drywall is going to be made out of, just so we have a better idea.
Sure.
And we have another hearing in 2 weeks, right? So-
Mm-hmm.
So it won't set you back in time.
No.
And you wouldn't be able to get anybody in there in 2 weeks anyway, would you? Let's be honest.
Troy's pretty capable. He might dig the hole himself as soon as you guys say go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, it's being done by hand.
My only concern is I think we should put some sort of restriction on from the time they start digging to the time they're done and stable needs, a week or pick some time that everybody's comfortable with, just so it's not exposed. If they're gonna expose it for a long time, then I think we have to have some, protection put on there,
The dry well area?
but. Well, anything,
Anything,
but
Okay.
it doesn't sound like you're not gonna dig and leave it for a couple of weeks, so.
No.
But,
We're
but
gonna-
I think we should
Just
put something in there that says,
Document that.
once you start, you have X amount of time to finish, and it has to be reasonable that everybody thinks is good.
And if not, you put in erosion controls, right?
Yeah.
So say what you wanted to say so that it's in the
Are you making a motion?
minutes so that Annie can add it to the order. What you wanted to say, Tom.
I think they should let us know when they're gonna start, or let Annie know.
Yeah,
And
we'll have a
then-
pre-construction.
Right, and then I think, does a week sound, 5 business days sound reasonable?
Sounds reasonable. Yep.
I think within 5 business days, they need to have all the work complete and, I guess, seeded or something that makes it a little more stable and less prone to erosion
Sure.
after the fact. And then let Annie know when they're complete and she can come take a look and verify. And if they run into problems, then I think we have to, I'm fine with letting Annie decide what erosion measures would have to be put in place to make sure it's safe.
Okay. So are we closing this out or are we continuing it?
Well, we wanted to continue to next week to find out what the
Do we want
dry
more-
well.
Do we want more details before we close, is really the question. Well, I just brought it up.
What's the concern on the drywall? How long it takes, or what method, or
How big, how,
just more specifics?
yeah.
That's a reasonable question, I
Mm-hmm.
think. Is that you think in 2 weeks you can get more specific?
Absolutely. We can get materials in to you guys before the meeting and get right back on this. Yep.
Perfect.
Probably a good idea, yeah. Sounds like we're gonna continue, Mike.
Okay, make a motion.
Move to continue to August 23rd.
Yep.
Second. I can't ever hold this.
Any questions on the motion to continue the hearing to August 23rd for 379 Main Street?
Sounds like it'd be pretty quick, though.
Okay, hearing none, then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This could be a role model for our pervious surface.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
They have some nice stuff. I don't know how well things last in New England.
Mhm.
Like the stuff I've seen online, it's always like, warm places.
Oh.
Like Florida or something like that.
I don't, I
But
mean.
they have some, like when you say like an open paver,
Mhm.
car.
Mhm.
And Annie, you said we got the DEP number on that one, so we're all set, right? Okay, so the next item on the agenda is an RDA, GRDA for 172 King Street for paving of a driveway within a jurisdictional area.
Nobody left but you guys. Good to see you guys again.
So we're back here. I think originally the first time we had a few more plans on the agenda.
Yeah.
So we are not going to be doing anything with the backyard at this moment. The reason for that is once we kind of started marking off the wetlands and started talking to some wetland scientists per your suggestion, the cost was going to be too much for that particular project. So within speaking with him, I did mention that probably in the next few years, we'll probably have to do the septic system. So I figured at that point, if we were going to hire him to do that, we would kind of do everything in one shot. So at some point, we'll probably come back again when the septic tank fails to then address some of the filling in the backyard, maybe the fence, the sprinkler system, and whatever we kind of decide that we want to do at that point. At this point in time, we're strictly focusing on the driveway. It's been a major problem for us since the last time that, again, you guys came for the site visit. Water just continues to pool in that driveway. It's been spilling into the garage. And then yesterday, as you're probably aware of how much rain we got, it actually then made its way into our basement. I could not hold back the water despite my best effort. So we had it in our original plans that we would pave from the left-hand corner of the house at the site visit that we discussed. And then we would continue that through the front of the home that wraps around to the right-hand side of the driveway that heads all the way down to the bottom of the hill. And we're going to now request that the paver actually put in a more sophisticated draining system now that we know how much water will actually pool there. We had discussed maybe doing some sort of crushed gravel, but we're actually going to put in a well or dry well and have that water pump out. That part is not, that part is over 100 feet away, so I don't think that that's part of the discussion. I think it's really more where the paving starts at the left-hand corner of the house. My wife,
Right,
Ida.
if it's out of our jurisdiction, as long as what you do doesn't cause stuff to get into our jurisdiction, then have
Right.
that.
Okay. And then I think working with Annie and trying to figure out, how far or what the buffer zone would be, I think it was determined that the left-hand front corner of the house was about 77 feet.
Where it would start, the paving job would start there and then just. So the paving job would start at 77-ish feet. That's the very left-hand side of the house. And then it just increases after that. So it's 78, and then, where the drainage and things would be is like way over 100. And there is no way for it to go towards the left because gravity wouldn't go uphill anyway. So anything would be completely out of the wetland jurisdiction at that point anyway.
So you do have some wetlands curling around, coming at you from the other side. And it's not, again, as long as you stay 100 feet away, that shouldn't be a problem, but 100 feet is maybe closer than you think.
I mean, I try to use that interactive map, and every time that I would drag it to where our garage doors are, which is where the main drainage system would start, everything was over 100 feet.
But that's where it starts. You're gonna be getting closer, though, from the 143 feet is the furthest point of where you're gonna be doing stuff. But there is gonna be, I suspect, stuff within 100 feet.
You're thinking on the garage side,
I'm thinking if
they
they're,
dig like
if
40
they're,
feet out,
if they're,
43 feet out.
if they're finding a place for that water to go, and that's a lot of water, it hurts to see that.
Yeah.
So it's gonna take a pretty big thing to get rid of all that water. And that storm yesterday, it was unusual, but it's not like it hasn't happened 15 times, 20 times in the last 20 years. It'll happen again. So you're gonna want something that will, it's gonna be big enough to do something with all that water.
Right, and I think that,
And that I'm concerned is gonna get into our jurisdictional area on this side.
For the actual physical location of the drain, or where the water would be funneled to?
Mostly the first one, but also the second one.
Okay.
So mostly, I'm worried about excavators going back there into that buffer zone.
'Cause I think-
Worried about it doesn't mean you can't do it.
Right.
I'm just worried.
Because I think where they're going to be digging, though, is right where the existing asphalt is. I don't think they won't be excavating anywhere on the actual physical grass location that we have.
Terry, where are you referencing?
Yeah.
The 143. So I think, I'll reword it a different way if I understand. The concern is that they're gonna have to start digging that's gonna go under the 143, under 100. Because it doesn't seem like right now there's not a 100% perfect plan of here's exactly where we're digging in front of the garage doors. Here's where we're gonna, if we're putting a drywall, whatever you're doing. You just have to be aware. Your 143 feet is a long way away, but if you're digging 44 feet, you're within the 100 feet now.
Okay.
So you just gotta be aware.
That means that we would still even potentially have 43 feet of being completely anywhere that we can still do work with.
Right, and it's not to say you can't go into the 100 feet.
Okay.
Just
All right.
be aware, don't start digging willy-nilly.
Right,
Um,
yeah, I mean,
you
that's
know,
our
you gotta keep us in the
backyard.
loop.
We don't wanna touch our backyard anyway.
Right, right,
Like,
and-
the way it is, we would just touch wherever the existing gravel is, which is
Right,
right in
okay.
front of the
Right.
garage door.
And I think that where the actual drainage would go, I think that the direction, I mean, they'd be funneling it. I mean, they're going to have to dig down a little bit because that part of the backyard, right where the drain would be, then starts to go up this way. So in order to fight that, I mean, I think they'll have to dig down somewhere, towards the right-hand side of the property where the overgrowth is. And that's probably where the water will be funneled to.
Yeah, I think just be aware of, like Terry said, it sounds like you have, well, you're 43 feet away, but if you keep digging, because you have to go somewhere, you may get below the 100 feet.
Now, with that being natural rainwater, if it's directed again towards the water's directed towards the back of the house, where you're getting closer to the wetlands, is that an issue? Because it's not.
I would be careful with your leach field, because if you direct other water towards that, you
Yeah,
have
if
to
you
talk
want
to a
your septic
registered
to
sa-
fail, that's the way to
You
do
would
it.
direct stormwater to it, so just,
Okay.
you would have to talk to someone who knows significantly more than I do about that, but because that's kind of exactly where your septic leach field is, right? Like if your
Yeah,
garage
so-
door is directly to my left and you're looking at your backyard that way, that's where your leach field is.
The leach
don't
field, my recollection is it was, if you're at the corner, it was not
Yeah.
straight back, but sort of a little bit of an angle, slight angle.
You can,
But you don't want to be putting all your water there either.
No.
I mean, it's better than the basement maybe, I don't know.
So you're talking about constructing a dry well also, like the previous people?
Well, their drywall was like the size of that computer tower. Their drywall is gonna need to be half the size of this room.
I know, it's just, it doesn't really,
The drywall would be outside of our jurisdiction, though.
okay.
It's outside of our jurisdiction.
But it's gonna be big. That's a lot of water.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not my,
I would contact the Board of Health. They may have a plan depending on when the septic was put in. That gives you a clue as to where it might be,
I
if you
might
don't
have sent
have
you
that already.
that.
Yeah, we had,
A
we,
big packet. I might
right,
have
and it
sent
came
you
with
that.
the Title V when we purchased the home, because that was a whole issue with the sellers to us.
Very sophisticated plan.
Yeah, the drawing is there, it's pretty
Lot of
poor,
stick
but,
figures and stuff.
yeah, right. So, I guess, so where we were going to start the paving, at the front left corner of the house, I know there was a little bit of, I know like 100 feet or what, but what is the exact marker for paving? What is the buffer there?
Well, there's a 25-foot state no disturb. You're
Okay.
clearly far beyond that. This is an existing house. We're a little more understanding on that. I mean, I personally have no issue at 77.92 feet having asphalt there myself.
There's already asphalt there.
It's already there.
Right.
It's already there,
So,
so.
and it's loose asphalt,
This was
so,
constructed back
you know,
then.
you put in something a little more,
No
that's not gonna
pre-existing drainage,
wash into
maybe?
the wetlands quite so easily.
Right, and it, I mean, aside from the dry well, you could probably also do some engineering
I
on the
know,
actual.
this is a job for an engineer, man.
Right, I mean,
Yeah, he did mention that, you know, at the top of the driveway, they would try to put, I don't know how he described it, but a little bit of a rise there so that it would push more of the water down the street. And then,
Down into the ground
Because we're
retaining
getting
wall
it
as
straight
it-
from the water, just
Yeah.
like pulling it down onto, pounding onto our
Right.
garage door.
and then
like
part
You
of,
can't put too much in, because then your car bottoms out.
But,
I mean,
Very
I'm
true.
not-
But if
maybe,
you-
maybe you got a,
I mean-
off-road vehicle or something.
I-
Still
I-
better than the one in the basement.
yeah, and then part of the other part he was going to try to alleviate too is that we have two drain spouts that come down, and they're parallel to each other, that they really just kind of left that is really contributing to the problem big time, because
Oh, yeah.
everything's running off the roof and going right to the driveway on
Yeah, yeah.
both sides of the doors. So
Yeah,
that's
you
got
can
to
see
be,
it. Yeah.
that's got to be changed. And then there's also another gutter downspout that is
I wasn't here.
along the chimney line, and that feeds right down into the driveway too, because that's the way they directed it. So we have basically 3 downspouts feeding into the driveway, and then you have all the pitch of the hill because nothing's stopping it from coming off the street. So I think a lot of those things will alleviate some of this, so it won't pool as bad, and then hopefully a drainage system to kind of pump some of that water towards the woods on the right side. And obviously, again, as you mentioned, not to interfere with the septic. We want that thing to survive at hopefully another 3, 4, 5 years, but who knows?
Okay.
Did you want to?
So you guys are aware of the dates, the seasonal restrictions we have? November 1st to April 15th.
Yeah, we honestly, we would like to get this going. We had, when we talked to the paver, we said the fall. We want it done sooner rather than later. So
Right.
he's ready to go. The fall is a good time if we can, work-wise, to also do it. So we're just waiting on this. We can, after, you know, whatever decision happens here, we reach out to him again. And we
Get
can
plans
give you a
and-
definite date, based on his schedule too. We need this done before the winter for sure.
Right, right.
I think we can't, like, that thing's gonna be an ice skate rink for us.
Yep.
We won't be able to use our driveway if we don't get this.
Right.
I applaud your decision to unbundle this from the other landscaping.
Yeah, this is.
That's
almost
a wise decision.
I wasn't here for the.
Yeah,
period.
just the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I mean, his price, I mean, we only got one quote. I mean, it wasn't utterly ridiculous, but because he was going to survey and then do all the proposals.
some value out of
But
it.
for the project, yeah, for the project we were going to do,
Yeah.
it just wasn't going to make
You're right.
sense.
When septic time comes along.
That'll-
Yeah, we
have to do
can-
it a second time, so
Right.
why
that'll
not
change,
just?
that'll
yeah.
change the whole yard anyways. so.
Yep, yep.
So, Annie, are you able to write this up under a PRDA letter permit?
They submitted it as an RDA.
Yeah.
And I can certainly do a GRDA as well.
No, but I'm saying, you understand what they're asking
Oh,
to do?
yes, sorry, I do.
Because I don't.
I do. I went out there when you guys had the driveway marked up by that contractor, so I do understand. And I do also certainly understand what you're talking about as far as expanding that drainage from what was originally proposed to a larger unit. But with that, just make sure you're communicating what, it is outside of our jurisdiction, but just make sure you're communicating with me what type you end up putting in, just so that we're aware.
Yeah, we can
If you do get some sort of drawn-out plan.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you
And
pointed out that your predecessors didn't leave real good plans all the time. It'd be nice to sort of have, I mean, this doesn't show us anything.
Oh, sure, yeah, no, I
So-
mean, that was me trying to.
No, it's an important thing to localize it, but it doesn't say driveway is going here, dry well is going here,
Well,
et
I
cetera,
think
et cetera.
This just happened last night to us with the basement, so
Yep.
that this is when we decided that we're gonna have to, put more money into a bigger drainage. We were just hoping we could do a much simpler and
Right.
natural drainage type,
Yeah,
but
it-
we realized that that's not gonna cut it.
And he was aware. He made that suggestion of the loose gravel and digging down a bit, but we did talk to him about putting in something more extensive at the beginning, and he mentioned that once we had a better idea, essentially he would reassess or reevaluate his estimate. Right, so the estimate that we got from him right now is probably the lowest that we're ever going to see it, and that's going to drastically change once we tell him that we're going to put in a real drainage system with some sort of piping. And we pointed out to him, the exact locations of where we think it should be, because originally where you could see it pooling is pretty easy to identify. It's generally that one central spot where it initially gathers and everything kind of takes over from there. And he's seen pictures of it. So I think that, if you'd like, we could certainly, we're going to probably be on the horn with him tomorrow. And we can have him, basically tell you what type, the size of it, and
Yeah.
I guess draw out where he could put the pipes. And
Yeah, and again, it's more so just that we have it on record because, the RDA is for what's within our jurisdiction, but it doesn't necessarily paint the whole picture. So
Right.
just so we have the full picture for the files moving forward, so whenever you guys end up moving out and I'm forwarding, well, probably not me, but someone's forwarding them that big packet.
yeah, you'll have a full
they'll
idea of the
know what it
plans.
is.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
It depends on how long they'll be living there.
Well, for a while now.
Yeah. But, yeah, I can
So-
certainly write, I understand.
Have you talked to her
I
about
think
that?
you should put in there, though, that no work is permitted, no work is permitted less than 75 feet away from the edge of the wetlands.
Yep.
Because it's a permit issue more than anything else.
Yep.
I have one quick question too. So when I did pay to have the wetland scientist mark off the wetlands. Has he shared that information? Because I know he said he would be in touch with you. No?
Who was it?
His first name was Thor.
Thor, he is from William and Sparages. Greg is no longer with William Sparages.
What?
He moved to Espel. I'll tell you in my update. Sorry.
Oh,
I
man.
can't remember. It's been
Jacobs?
quite the 6 weeks.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
I can look, but you might need to remind me to look. But
Sorry. No, I was gonna say, if part of your agreement with him was that he was gonna give you a plan with everything mapped out, get that now, because then
you can use it.
things can change over time. But if you come back 4 years from now, that at least gives you a good starting spot. And you're probably gonna have to still get somebody to confirm some of it, just so nothing has changed, but if that was part of your original.
Future projects.
Yeah, if that was part of your original agreement with him, or with the company, whoever you did it with, then I would insist that you get that.
Yeah, because the only reason why I brought that up is just because it'd be to share with the paver exactly where he can and can't go right on the money, right? So basically say, hey, if you're going to put a pipe in, fantastic, but this is where you stop. I'm not sure if that's even a possibility,
Paper
but
could draw the plans based on that too, so make sure that we're, not.
Right, with it, yeah. outside of the 75?
I mean, I guess if push comes to shove, I mean, he can use the map that they have, but. Yeah, I guess that's sorry, another question real quick. So if essentially he says so say we say, okay, he puts the drainage system in, he says, okay, I only need to maybe make this pipe go 12 feet. But when the water gets dispersed, like how are we going to be able to gauge like how far that has to go? Like, so say if it launches out, the water pushes out, say 4 or 5 feet, how's that gauge towards where's the cutoff of the wetlands? Like, does that get, I guess, considered?
So,
That's a great question.
Is it, because my question is like, is it where the pipe is or how far the water actually gets pushed to?
Our concerns are stuff that's above ground, and once it percolates and does its thing, it's just doing its thing. And that's one reason why we have a big buffer. So whatever happens along the way gets dissipated or mitigated or the effect gets reduced,
Filtered.
percolated,
Absorbed somewhere?
absorbed. And so it gives, it's a buffer. I mean, it's the definition of a buffer almost. So I think if you dump water off and it sinks into the ground 125 feet away from the wetlands, no big deal. If you're spraying water 10 feet from the wetlands, that might get our attention.
yeah. And I was picking this up because the previous what do you call it? Applicant, a couple, like on, they have, they're doing the riprap, it's in a fan, 4 feet deep, 3 feet wide, a fan that comes out at the end of their sump pumps. I don't know how much water is here compared to yours, but it's probably a very similar thing.
It's a real stream when it's a stream.
Right, yeah, when the pump's going, I know my son has
Well,
one.
no,
that-
I mean, the stream back there is a real stream.
Oh, that one, yeah. But yeah, you wanna reduce, you don't wanna create turmoil wherever the outlet is. If you have something that's on the surface that's outletting, that you end up creating problems, like Terry said, for the wetlands, that you're eroding into the wetlands. That's the bad thing, so.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the project at,
Well, these
One-
are
It's an
RDA, so.
RDA.
oh, motion.
Think
to-
backwards and then make the motion.
Let Tom do it now.
Do it, Tom.
Yeah, Tom, you open your mouth, there you go.
So find a negative determination for 172 King Street on the RDA application with the stipulations as discussed that Annie took notes for and is going to write up.
Yeah.
For the paved driveway and the drainage work outside of the 100-foot buffer.
Second.
It will include a permit letter that goes along.
Right.
Typically for GRDA, RDA, will issue a DA for the DEP and then a permit letter under the Groveland RDA, just specifically some of the things we discussed. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
So good luck with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May the force be with you.
Okay, next, 48 King Street. A waiver for, a fee waiver request under a certificate of compliance. And Annie is going to explain this one to us because it's kind of complicated.
It sure is. Alrighty. Excuse me. All right. You have a letter in your packet. It's like the very last page. But to kind of tell the story, I guess. So, Homestead Lane is a subdivision off of King Street. The original map and lot number associated with the subdivision before it was subdivided was associated with the address for 48 King Street. The way subdivisions generally work, like we know with 106 King Street, is that the permits that we issue retain that original address because the new subdivision street addresses and map and lot numbers don't exist at the time of our permit that we issue. So, even though the order of conditions that gets issued for a subdivision is for the subdivision, it is tied sometimes to a separate address. So in this case, for 48 King Street still exists as its own separate home, but the order of conditions was issued to 48 King Street at their map and lot number. They are selling their home, and because of the way the order of conditions was originally issued and because of the way subsequent certificates of compliance were subsequently issued, there are questions from the buyers of the home regarding a clean deed. And there's a specific name for it.
No,
Clean
clean deed
title.
is-
Oh, yeah, it works. It's just, it's not exactly what I'm thinking. I can't get it, but regardless. So, when they were going to sell the property, the title search, that's what I was thinking of, came back missing a certificate of compliance for the local order of conditions that was issued. The seller's attorney reached out, asked if we could issue that because that project has been closed out since 2015. The DEP order of conditions was closed out with 2 certificates of compliance. It was just the local that was missing. Upon further research, and I will not bore you with the backstory, the title searcher didn't essentially hit next at the Registry of Deeds and see that a local order of certificate of compliance, was issued. That brings us to today. As I mentioned, the original order of conditions, both for the DEP and local, were issued to 48 King Street. The certificates of compliance issued for the DEP order of conditions and the local order of conditions reference specific lots on Homestead Lane, which got a little messy because the certificates of compliance that were issued as complete certificates, when it should have probably been a partial certificate for just the one lot, because there were 2 lots specifically associated with the order of conditions, lot 5 and 6, I believe. So the buyer wanted to see kind of one final all-encompassing certificate of compliance, which is what I had you guys sign last week. But before I had, this has been a saga. After I had you sign that certificate of compliance, the day I was going to hand it over to the applicant and receive the check was the day they discovered that the local certificate of compliance was at the registry and was recorded. And because I have no authority to waive fees, told them that if they wanted to waive the fee for kind of this extra, in my opinion, certificate of compliance, kind of the all-encompassing one, they would have to ask the commission because it's not something I have the ability to do.
Do they need that certificate of compliance?
Yes. So.
How much are we charging them? $450?
Correct.
I make a motion that we waive half of the fee for the certificate of compliance and charge $225 because we did go through all the effort of issuing a certificate of compliance in sort of a rush mode. It was not our mistake. If they want to go after the title search people for the cost, that's fine by me. You don't need to put that on motion.
That's generous. What do you think, Annie?
Well, is there a second for that motion?
I will, go ahead, Bill.
I'm just trying to figure out So a house, 48 King Street existed,
Still exists.
still exists, and
So,
they used some word, they used land, they sold land for
correct.
a subdivision.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's, so, it's all tied, because
So-
that's the only thing that existed at the
It's like
initiation.
106 King Street.
So
Yeah,
Annie,
So,
we did not issue separate orders for those two houses?
No.
Why? See, we should never do that.
I-
Blame her.
No, it's not
She
anything.
was still in high
No.
school.
I will say now, the way or at least the way I've interpreted our fee schedule, we have different fees. So like what excuse me, what we did for 106 King Street,
Right.
they filed a notice of intent just for the road.
Right.
Right.
And then they did separate filings for the homes.
But this was not that long ago.
No, it
This was,
wasn't.
5 years ago.
It was 2015.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
almost 10. It's
All
closer
right,
to 10.
7 or 8 years ago, but, I don't really understand. I remember this, I mean, Terry, Tom, you
Yeah.
certainly.
I don't know.
I don't know why we would have done that.
Because we got
Because at the time.
We got hit sideways years before that on something, and then I remember you remarking, we're always, we're gonna have one order of conditions for the overall development, for the road, the drainage, the retention ponds, all that kind of stuff, and then any lots that do it, it's gonna be separate. So I don't know what happened on Homestead Lane. Obviously, we didn't do it the way we said we were gonna do it.
No, so, this would be similar to 106 King. That house that's now at 106 King is not going to get allowed to be sold, or the lawyer will be upset.
It won't have clear title.
So what?
It's not an order of conditions that doesn't just say Katy Lane, but it's going to have to say, and 106 King Street.
That home is going to have a Katy Lane address once the road is accepted.
106 is?
That existing home that has the rocks on the
Oh,
side?
it's going to change its address.
Correct, because right now there's no technical frontage that exists on
Yeah, I
Katy
think Kevin
Lane.
mentioned that
Well,
like
that's interesting.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
So that's not an
Okay.
issue.
Oh,
So
all
there's a
right.
motion on the floor.
But it would be similar to that if
Yeah.
the address wasn't changed.
Yes.
So, I disagree. I think they need to pay the regular amount. I don't understand how we can justify fee waiving.
Well,
So
then, either the motion doesn't get seconded and dies an early death, or it gets seconded and we all have an opportunity to vote on whether to do
Well-
that or not.
all right, so is there a second?
I second the motion.
All right.
And here's my reasoning. Because, like Terry said, and Annie mentioned, the title search company didn't hit the next one. We went through all the work. So I think they owe us something. I can see the confusion. I would, I guess, go back to, I don't know when they sold it to DeHulu Homes or however that all works, but if I was the person selling it, I would have been adamant about them not using my address and all the paperwork. for
They didn't
stuff
have a
to file.
choice, though, because what do
Because
you
it hadn't been
reference?
approved as a,
You can't reference, you have to reference a map and lot number.
Right.
Even if there's no real address, you have to reference that. And I will also note, I mean, they did pay for the original 3 certificate of compliances.
What I don't like is this idea of fee waiving. The only mention in the bylaw that talks about waiving anything is due to a hardship. And I don't think they've demonstrated a hardship here at all. What's the hardship?
I would suggest we bring it to a vote, and if it, as Terry said, if it doesn't pass, then
Oh, yeah, no,
We're open
we'll
for other-
vote on
well, if it
it.
doesn't
Other
pass, then,
motions.
if it doesn't pass, then, yeah.
No.
Then the next one would be to waive it entirely and then vote that down.
There's also,
Yes.
the reason it's $450 is because there's an extra,
It was,
because it has been expired
Right.
for over a year.
right.
So there's,
But I don't think that's relevant, really.
Well, yeah,
I
I just-
thought about having half of a 350 fee as my motion, but that didn't make sense either. So, yeah, so.
Okay, so are
Let's
there
vote on
any
it.
other statements about the motion on the floor?
Well, Mike, I want to hear more about your hardship. That's the only thing that's in our bylaw or the town's
No,
bylaws?
our
bylaw.
our bylaw. You can request waivers, but they're due to hardship, which I would interpret as financial hardship.
In this case.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I don't agree with it.
I'm not even sure I'm gonna vote yes.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we'll take a vote then, and we'll do a roll call vote then.
Oh, geez.
Snap.
What?
Yes, because I don't.
He wants it on the record.
My hearing is not that great to interpret.
You're not Bill Dark at town meeting? He's very good.
He made some mistakes.
Wait, this is that, Mr. Duck?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Family,
no.
but during this time, because people brought up Dr. Dark, and it was very clear he had absolutely nothing to do with this. This was, I believe it's his brother.
Okay.
It is Chris Dark, it's not Bill Dark. Bill Dark's our
Right.
moderator.
He
I-
had nothing to
sorry.
do with this
Yeah,
development.
no conflict
or-
of interest.
Sorry, I hadn't even
All right,
registered that.
Terry,
Aye.
Can I just want to, okay. I'm
You
just
just
still
gotta vote. You
confused.
just gotta
Okay,
vote.
all right.
You can abstain.
No, that's fine.
Tom, who's down there, Tom?
Upon further reflection, and you bring up a very good point, Mike, about the bylaw. I do remember that we've had people come to us, financial hardship. I'm gonna say no on this one, because I don't believe they demonstrated a financial hardship.
Bill,
Nay.
Stephanie?
Nay.
Mike, no. Rich?
No.
Fails.
The only thing
I make a motion that we deny the request for a fee waiver for, which King Street, 68?
48.
48 King Street.
I will second that.
What was that?
So what's,
Discussion.
say the motion again?
The motion was to deny the request for a fee waiver, which I said was the logical extension of my
Sure.
motion being voted down.
Right.
So there you go, I was right.
Well, would you take a friendly amendment that says, for the reason being no financial hardship was demonstrated?
I would insist on that friendly amendment.
All right, so that's the motion. Any other questions or discussion on it? No? Okay, so this time, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous.
Hey, your hearing got better.
Okay, next is some tree issues. So, this all has to do with some trees at VZ Park, and since VZ Park, I try to make sure the commission makes decisions about anything outside, in the outside areas, obviously not within the building, because we'd be here all the time making decisions. So there are 3 dead trees that need to be removed. One is a double dead hemlock, the other is a large dead pine, and the other one is a large single dead hemlock. 2 of them are near the garage, and the other one is back way behind the main building.
Do we know the cause of death of the hemlocks?
No, we don't know that.
Are they like totally dead?
Oh, yeah, they're totally dead.
Okay. All right, do they represent a danger to buildings or
Yes.
people?
Yes.
I move that we have.
I'm not done yet.
More trees to talk about.
Then there is a large double maple tree that is in the front between Lucille's cottage and the main building. It is not completely dead. It still has foliage on it, but it probably is dying. It had a large amount of damage on the one former branch that was on it. It probably fell off.
We know what kind of maple it is?
No.
But it's mostly dead and falling apart,
Well,
next
it's
to
not
Lucille's.
mostly dead, I'm just saying it's dying.
And
And it's next to Lucille's cottage.
Yeah, it's between the two buildings. And then there is another request to take down 2 Norway maples at the edge of the, they're right at the edge of the reforestation, but next to the rear area where we have weddings and parties over there. So the concern
Can we
with.
cut them down right
The
now?
con-
Yes.
Let me finish. So the concern with
Second.
those is that, besides that they're invasive because they're Norway maple, they are at the edge of this area that if they're taken down, there's no shade. So here's what I'm saying we should do. I'm saying we should not cut down the maple tree, the large maple tree that's still alive, or the 2 Norway maples yet. I am saying we agree to take down the 3 dead ones, but we hold off and review the other 3 trees for a year to see, number one, what happens next year to that maple. Does it get worse? Does it completely die? And for the 2 Norway maples, what is going to be planted, because they're right next to the reforestation project. And so shade over there is a big concern. Vanessa really doesn't want to have those trees taken down. So that's the proposal, just to say that we're going to take the 3 dead trees down.
So, can I interject?
Yeah, sure.
So I spoke to the master gardener, who is our consultant for the property.
Well, not really.
She's doing the reforestation project,
but
and she
she's
is
not-
also,
She's not the.
That doesn't make her the consultant.
and
for
she's
the
also
property.
planted all the native
Still doesn't make her the consultant.
flowers. She's the person that we rely on to advise us.
That's a very different job description. No, seriously.
Okay, so I spoke to Diane
Yeah,
Pantamaro.
anyway, so you, go ahead.
And it's our understanding that Vanessa has come around to removing the Norway maples, excluding the dead trees, and that the Norway maples provide shade to potentially the driveway, but otherwise, they are not a benefit to that piece of property. And in fact, according to the master gardener and landscape architect who's helping with the reforestation project, are actually harmful to the native plants that are growing in that area and that we want to grow in that area. Their canopy has a negative effect on the forest floor, which is why Norway maples are so terrible.
Well, and it's more than just a canopy. There's some evidence that there might be, like with black walnut, there might be some sort of
Exactly.
chemical secretions that, all I know is I've got nothing but baby Norway maples, even though I have some very, very large sugar maples on my property.
I know, I just cut some
And
down and my
there's a
neighbor.
There's a reason for that.
Yes.
I'm not sure what it is, but cutting them down is a good way to find out.
So I guess I'm in favor of removing the maples. I don't know what kind of maple it is that's growing next to Lucille's cottage, but if it's a problem, I guess I'm worried about, I don't know anything about that tree, but if it's a problem, I don't want anything to happen to Lucille's cottage either.
It's not really a problem. It shows no evidence of, falling down. It's a very large, well-rooted tree. So I really don't think that it's a
But
problem.
if it's, as you said, it's damaged, significant damage.
Yeah,
And
the
dying.
bottom had, a large branch fell off of it, so it's.
Mike, do you have somebody lined up to cut down these trees?
Doug has already agreed to do it in October.
In
No,
October?
no, that's not true. We don't have anybody to take any of
Okay,
these
so-
trees down.
So we don't have to vote on anything today.
No.
My recommendation is that we establish whether there has been a change of heart on the Norway maples, and then we can do a vote on the 26th or the 23rd.
along those lines, I'd like to get either in writing or have the person be here. If there's either a change of heart or there's a objection or a technical or professional opinion or reason why something should happen, I'd like to hear it from.
Okay, yep,
the
I'll make
record.
sure that,
Because I have an issue with cutting down trees that are alive. I get the whole invasive thing. I get that. I want to hear from the person that says, here's why.
okay.
I'm concerned about the one, Mike, you said is partially damaged. Like, if we think, I'd like to have a professional tree person look at it and say, if they think someone may get hurt, then I think we
Yeah.
either trim that part of it or take the whole
No,
thing down.
No,
I
there's
don't know.
it's not dangerous. And the people who looked at it is Northern Tree.
Oh.
And so I met with Kevin Keever there, and we talked about the different trees, and you know, he's all for taking down the dead trees. Those are definitely a danger. But the maple in front, I think, you know, he was being aggressive in looking at it, because if you go up there, there's several trees that are on their way out. Large maple, large oak, but, you know, they're not a danger by any means, so
Right.
I think that tree falls in that category. As far as the Norway maples are concerned, the reason why I really don't want to take them down right now involves a couple of things. One is, even though Doug may say that he's willing to take these trees down, I really don't believe that he should be taking them down.
Oh, how come?
Because they're large trees, and he's not a tree person.
Okay,
We already removed 6 invasive Norway maples from the very same area. And
Mhm.
I had originally had an agreement with Diane that we wouldn't take these down yet. And then she met with some other people who convinced her that somehow that they were terrible and they should be removed immediately. And so then she changed her mind. So I don't think, you know, I think she's gonna come in here and just say that same exact thing that I said, you know, that she believes they're terrible and they should be taken out.
well, I mean, I actually.
I don't think leaving them there for a year is gonna cause any harm. And the third reason why I don't think this is a good idea is because the project that she's doing involves planting trees. And so it's hard for us to, and we've talked about this before, about trees. We want to encourage people to plant trees, and here we are cutting trees down.
Yes, but they're invasive.
People don't understand that, though. All they know is, hey, they were gonna cut down these live trees. Why are they doing that when they told us
That's
they
a
want us to
teachable
encourage
moment.
trees?
Exactly. And I actually did mention to Vanessa several years ago that those were invasive Norway maples. So we had already started the conversation several years ago.
Right, and we
So-
took 6 of them down.
I
We already
just-
took
I don't see
6
an issue
down. That's
keeping
a
them
good
up for a
start.
year.
I mean,
That's a lawyer.
I guess I wouldn't mind getting the professional opinions from these professional people if we want to.
But what's the professional gonna say? They're Norway maples, they're invasive, they should be taken down. All the other reasons that I'm talking about have nothing to do with whether or not they're invasive or anything else. They have I have other reasons why I don't think we should take them.
Well,
So-
if you have reasons to take them down and they're invasive, that to me just makes it really
There is no
compelling.
other reason other than that they're invasive to
The
take them
commission
down.
recognizes Tom.
So the reason I asked that question is we had something several years ago, which I will not bring up, where, oh, this person, or, you know, this selectman and this certain person heading the department, that all these people said stuff, and we made a decision based on all that input, and then it came back in our face, and then nobody would essentially back us up. So that's the reason why I'm asking, if Vanessa, if that person has an opinion, fine, then either write a letter or come in front of us and state your opinion, and that's why I'm asking for that. I'm with you, Mike, in the sense of, I'm not an arborist, so the whole invasive species things, I think there's more of a concern if the public is not educated adequately. What they're gonna see is exactly what, in my opinion, what Mike says. Hey, they're taking all these trees down at VZ Park. I thought, why did we buy this thing back in the 90s? Because we're not getting taxes, and it's supposed to be open space and conservation land, and now they're cutting all the trees down. It's just, we need to be careful about what we're doing and why we're doing it. If it's a safety issue, I'm all for, I don't want anybody getting hurt. If we think someone's gonna get hurt, then we should take it down, but I don't think waiting a year and evaluating this is gonna make any difference.
I'll agree with Tom, just from the PR perspective, I guess is kind of what
Yeah.
your second part of it, I guess, in the sense that we did just request a CPC grant for trees and to plant trees, and as, seeing, I thought they were supposed to be planting a ton of trees at VZ, and then dead ones
Well,
are.
wasn't there talk in that grant about removing invasive species?
I thought, no.
There was.
There was talk about removing existing,
Not invasive trees, invasive.
like shrubs, scrub, to plant the Myawaska garden.
And again, we're talking about a year on a tree. Just one more ring,
Yeah.
One more.
okay?
No, I think we should
It's gonna be
wait.
a big one this year.
What is it?
So,
I mean, I guess I don't mind, I think that we should get the professional opinions from these professionals, personally, I think, because I agree that I worry about the invasive trees in this town. I mean, the tree of heaven issue is terrible and maybe more pressing than the Norway maples, but that doesn't mean the Norway maples aren't bad, you know what I mean? So,
I lost my mind when I read the email from Annie about the knotweed.
Oh.
Because I had my septic done, and all of a sudden now I have knotweed, so.
okay, well, I have a solution for you.
But, no, we can take, trust
Okay.
me, I've been following all the emails. But, so Mike, do we want to
Yes.
vote to get rid of the dead ones so that we can make arrangements to have the professionals come in and take them down?
I would say that's fine.
So do you want me to make a motion?
Mike,
Do we
in the
need a motion
future, I
on
would
this?
just bring up the ones that you want to get done.
Well.
Well, no, because people have already reached out to me about this exact topic, so,
About the Norways.
about the Norway maples. And we've already talked to Vanessa about the Norway maples, so, I mean, they are an issue.
So,
Who's gonna cut the hemlocks down? Are they as big as the other ones?
That's northern tree, they're
All
gonna
right,
do
so
that.
it would probably be, to get them in there to do 3 trees or 5 trees is probably not as much as having them come in twice, right?
No, it doesn't really matter.
Thousands on the way.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
so I guess, point of order, you brought these up
Yes.
to talk about them.
Yes.
We don't
Because-
need a second, I mean, this isn't, do we? I mean, this is
No, we don't
information for
need,
you.
we
Okay.
don't need to take a vote, you know what I mean? But if you want to take a vote, we could take a vote.
Does anybody disagree in taking the dead trees down and having Mike arrange it to have the professional, commercial company come in and do it? Any disagreement or discussion?
But my only,
Oh.
if you can get a better price,
No, there's no better price, believe me. I've got the numbers right here, Terry.
really, so what are they?
No, he's charging $720 for each tree, so that means it's almost another $1,500.
So if he comes in
Take
and does
down
one
those-
tree, it's 720, if he comes in and does 5, it's 3,500.
Yeah,
It's inexpensive.
so,
I have a tree in my
you know,
yard.
it isn't, there's no financial advantage, let's put it that way, to
No
taking
multiple-
down any more.
Multiple discount,
Yeah.
multiple unit discount.
And like I say, I wouldn't mind so much if we hadn't already taken 6 of these things down And that was part of the plan that I had with Diane until all of a sudden she spoke with somebody else and they said.
I don't think so. I
"Oh,
think Diane
No, it is.
is
It
pretty concerned about having invasive Norway
I
maples.
I understand that, but I'm telling you, we had an agreement that those 2 trees would be left, and then all of a sudden, she changed her mind,
I
which put me in a very uncomfortable position.
don't know if
I
that's,
moved
So
to
that's
have
why I brought it
Northern
here.
Tree come in and take down those 3 hemlocks.
or
I agree with that if it's.
I agree with you, because it's not a vote. We're not allowed to make a vote.
Well, no, we can make a vote. He said we could bring it to vote.
Okay, so is there a second
Yeah,
on that?
I second that.
All right, any questions on that motion? I'll say, okay, so all in favor of taking down the 3 dead trees by Northern Tree at VZ Park, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Yes, okay, so that's done. And so I'll make a motion to not take down the,
I wouldn't even go.
no,
don't do it,
just
Mike.
wait,
leave it there.
Mike.
Nobody
Just what?
seconded it. Nobody
Leave
seconded
it,
it.
just, I would say just leave it.
Nobody
Or do you
seconded
want-
We've agreed and voted on 3 dead trees.
okay.
The other thing can just, they're gonna hang out there, we'll
If you
talk
hadn't brought
about
it
them
up, we
again.
wouldn't know about it.
Mike, do you need a motion to fall back on?
Don't
Can I
get
make a-
technical with me.
I'm sorry.
Can I make a friendly
No,
amendment?
because, I'm telling you
Previously
this,
voted?
this is what
It's too late.
Diane wanted me to find this out. She has been pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to get those 2 trees
I,
taken down.
I think it's a.
So that's why I want to take a vote, to either say yes, okay, they said yes, or no, they
If it's
said
that
no.
important to her, have her come in front of the board.
Yeah, I,
Make her case.
I love that suggestion.
That way there.
I mean, I think she would have been here, but they have extenuating circumstances this week,
and
so.
understood, and I don't, I mean, I'm not.
We have another meeting in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it takes a long time for trees to grow, so let's get rid of the dead ones.
Well, they're producing lots and lots of seeds.
And maybe poison.
I get it, I'm just, I'm all for discussing it. It's not like we can't talk about it again in
Okay.
2 weeks, but I don't want to make a rash decision on something that takes a really long time to replace, or essentially is irreplaceable.
Okay, then, let's move on then to the minutes.
You don't have them. I didn't
Oh,
finish
okay.
them. Sorry. But I did, fingers crossed, hopefully find a minute taker, which is going to alleviate a significant amount of work for me because I
Okay.
have to do Conservation Commission, Zoning Board, and Planning Board.
Ugh,
Those are a lot of minutes that need to be very detailed, so
We need to just talk less, is what you're saying.
no. But, so you will have probably a plethora of minutes in about a month if the person I'm talking to works out. I'm so excited.
great.
Supposed to dance with the person who brought you to the.
Okay. Do you have anything for your update?
I do. I have a couple things. Forgive my memory. It's been quite the 4 weeks since our last meeting. A school update, there was that kind of, the one larger remaining item was the water quality structure right at the Groveland entrance. There were design issues with it. It's kind of a work in progress right now. They will potentially be coming in front of us for a modification. I'll leave it at that.
Can I ask you about that, though? Because I drove by one day, and they were digging there. So you're saying did they try to put something in and then realize it's not right, and then pulled it all out again?
So what ended up happening was there was drainage that goes to a catch basin, and from that catch basin, it goes to a water quality structure.
Right.
And from that water quality structure, it was supposed to connect to that head wall that goes under the Groveland entrance.
Right.
It was supposed to connect into that head wall and then just be on its merry way. There was a flaw in the design, and the water quality structure was installed 3 feet below the water level.
Okay.
That doesn't work. So they are currently trying to figure out a way to fix that. I know the building committee met last night to discuss potential options. So, depending on what they end up being, they might have to reappear in front of us. They just don't know yet which direction they're gonna go in as far as a fix. Mike and I went out there 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Because originally they had a plan to just install a new flared end adjacent to the head wall, but that wasn't going to work either because the grades just weren't going to work out and the water would have backtracked. So they're actively working on it.
And they're probably, my assumption is they're trying to get it all done by November 1st, but
Their substantial completion was July 31st, so they are steaming right along. I wouldn't think November 1st is even like a possibility for them.
So, can you tell them that they're gonna have to deal with that DEP orders of condition?
What do you mean, just so I'm on the same page?
Well, there's a orders of condition under the Mass Wetlands Law that
Yeah.
was issued by the town of West Newbury that applies to the work they're doing or proposing to do. So they're gonna have to seek a modification of that orders with West Newbury. I'm sure they're not gonna be happy about that, but
No, they will not.
I think we would be remiss in at least not telling them that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, they would still also have to file for modification under ours.
Yeah, under our Groveland.
That's what I meant, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, the local.
But, you know, they really can't get away with just filing with us.
Yeah.
They have to talk to West Newbury.
Hopefully the modification is not,
Yeah,
one of the
right.
options is to just raise the structure, which wouldn't increase impact. So hopefully that's the solution. But anyway, so there was that. I paid our Mass Association of Conservation Commissioners invoice. I screwed up the math and accidentally paid them an extra $120 because we have our new member. A new member is $60, and then agents are $60. They had already accounted for it. I screwed it up. When they spoke with me on the phone, they were more than happy to refund us the $120, or they said we can provide 3 handbooks for that price. For that price. So, I mean, nose goes, whoever would like. I have my own already, so, but just let me know.
let's get them and have a we can share them amongst ourselves. And
They're digital only. They're sorry, yes, they're digital
And with
only.
laptops?
No.
Can
It
we,
unfortunately does not.
can we legally share a password, or?
I'm
Can you
not
find
able
out?
to make that determination.
Understood.
I haven't been doing this long, but I've been doing this long enough. I don't know. But we have 3, so, and they do need to go to,
Individual people.
commissioners' emails with associated passwords. It's through the, they do it through like UMass Amherst OWL. It's their like online textbook.
So which books are these, sorry?
This is the MACC handbook.
Updated version.
Yeah, it's their most updated,
Last
the,
year's.
the most updated one they have, because I think it's just their online one. It's kind of like how we use our e-code. It just updates as you go.
Okay.
That's my assumption. So if, who wants them?
I'll take one too.
Bill,
Also, Rich.
as our newest member.
Since that was probably part of the cost overrun there?
No, it was
Cost
my lack
mistake.
of math. Well, it's
If-
not you, it's
if
me.
Everyone wants one.
Oh, yeah, if everyone wants one, we can certainly cover that expense as well. We have the funds
Okay,
to do it.
let's do
So if
that then.
everyone would like one
Then it
for
would
a
be
year.
cheaper for all of us to get one.
No.
No, but I mean, like,
Oh, well,
No.
I
I
get where
won't do
you.
the math either.
I would rather, if we're, again, let's get some other.
Okay, they're only like,
Oh, no, but these are good.
No, I'm saying get these,
Oh,
but if
okay.
we were going to buy others, if we were saying, oh, well, everybody should have one, I don't think everybody needs one. There's ways of,
I believe I
Well-
have the older paper copies in the office somewhere. They're not as updated, of course, but
So the answer is, if you want one,
let me
or you
know.
don't want one, let Annie know, and then she'll order out however many more we need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
For the, anyone besides Bill, Stephanie, or Rich, you can go onto your MACC web, account and order it and just have it be invoiced to Town Hall.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank
And
you.
I'll just get the bill and pay it.
Can we do it on Amazon too, or?
I have an
My other
Amazon.
accounts?
Not your personal ones. We do have a department Amazon account.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I get the invoices for that too.
I did not know that. All right,
Um,
what's next?
What's next? I mentioned this a few months ago. I'm gonna mention it again, partly from my memory. I will not be able to be present at the September 13th meeting. You said you weren't.
I was not going to be available.
Sorry, that was off. So just a note, we have another meeting next week, so we can rediscuss it then, but I just wanted to make sure it was on people's radars and my own radar.
Do we know if
Um,
we
Well,
even need the meeting?
Yeah, but one possibility would be to cancel that meeting and.
I think we'll be able to get a better gauge at the next meeting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Right.
just to folks to start thinking
Do one
about.
on the 27th or whatever.
Yeah, just so people are starting to think about it.
What's the deal? Because I don't really, how are we figuring out, I guess
So-
I'm not sure about the bi-monthly meeting situation.
A couple months ago, the overload that we were getting on our once-a-month meetings was pushing things quite late. And I had suggested that we do, when needed, a second meeting
Okay.
during the month. And additionally, we have been lucky that our applicants have given us a lot of grace, but per Mass General Law, we are required to open a hearing within 21 days of receiving a notice of intent,
Okay.
and we have not necessarily been doing that.
So is the plan through, like, how long are we going to be doing these bi-monthly meetings?
We've just been doing it as needed.
So the plan currently is to do on the 27th of September also?
I think that it would behoove us to make that determination on the 23rd.
Yeah, I think the default is every second week, but then we're sort of on the fly, looking ahead
To the
at each
fourth.
meeting that we have, whether it's the second Wednesday or the fourth Wednesday, and saying,
We're
you know,
gonna need
we
it or
don't need
not.
to meet in 2 weeks, we can meet, we can skip the next one and go 4 weeks from now.
Okay. All right. But for the summer and fall, probably not the winter. Or we
It's a-
don't know yet.
No,
We
forever.
don't know yet.
It might be forever?
No, it is
It's not just
forever.
a seasonal thing.
No, it is forever.
It's
but
much
a
more
time zone.
likely that we won't need to have bi-weekly meetings in the winter.
During.
Yeah, we
Okay.
just got slammed
Okay.
this spring.
I just want to prepare myself because I wasn't
Well, we
aware.
get- Luckily, having 7 members now, it's not quite as important for everybody to show up.
Okay.
Don't say it that way.
We're all engaged.
It's very important.
It's important. It's
It's
still
always
the most
important.
important thing on the planet, but it's not as important.
I think you
No.
can probably gather that we won't have one the last week of December.
No, I don't
Plan
think so.
on that.
Can we vote on that?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
All right, what's next?
Here's the thing to say is, if you have something else that you must do, you can do it. But
okay.
Friendly amendment?
Take it seriously. Please come to every meeting that you can
Um,
come to.
So 260 Washington Street, over near the Boxford line.
Yep.
Their restoration area is looking really well. Out of I believe it was 116 plants they planted, only 3 died, which is
That's good
pretty
because
awesome.
they're gardeners.
Let's hear
So
from Rain.
I
Yeah,
hope
I
that they
know.
live.
And then, so that's going well. They have 1 more year of monitoring before we can issue a certificate of compliance. I'm gonna have to do some research. They're moving. So I'm gonna have to do some research as to how we can accomplish that from our standpoint. Because, I mean, like we just went through with the 48 King Street thing, title searchers are really harping on orders of conditions and whatnot, so.
What we've done sometimes is we've had some money in an escrow account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And said, yeah, we'll sign off on it if we don't think it's gonna be more than, you know, if a disaster happens, we can probably fix it for $2,000. If nothing happens, you get your $2,000 back.
Yeah,
So I think that's the cleanest way,
I think so too. I just want to make sure
I mean,
for.
especially if we like the way it looks.
Yeah, of course. I'm thinking now from like the buyer's perspective, if they need a motion from the commission, but just to put it on your radar, I'll figure out the details of it and let you know.
Awesome.
8 Merrimack River Road, formerly owned by Michael Bacher, he had mentioned that he was moving when he last came in for his tree removal permit. The new owner sent me an email yesterday, inquiring, so the permit was never acted on, which Mike told us would happen, and that there would be a new owner. That new owner said that, hi, I have this permit, I would like to act on it now. So I had suggested to Mike, because I just forwarded it him so he was aware, that I go out and do a site visit with them to explain, in person, this kind of stipulations of the commission, but that he could still work under that permit.
Oh, okay, so that's how that works?
I
It's
think-
for the property, not the person? Okay,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
So it depends on which world you're talking in. Zoning, not necessarily. But for conservation, it's tied to lots.
Okay.
So just if everyone has any issue with that, no, okay.
Does it make sense to write them a duplicate letter with their name on it? Or-
I would say no, simply because on the letters I put the motions with, I think that would get messy.
So the address is on the letters? and-
Yes,
They
yeah.
have a copy of it.
Yep, they have a
Okay.
copy of the one that I had sent to Mike Bacher.
Just non-related, well, related to this, I'm wondering, we should maybe give it some thought moving forward when we do these permit letters, if we want to either have an expiration on it or have some stipulation that, just because we told you could do it, it doesn't mean 7 years from now,
Yeah, our letter permits don't have an expiration date generally.
yeah,
Tom makes a good
we should
That is a
probably
good point.
figure that out.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like a building permit, you have 6 months to start and 3 years to complete,
Right.
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think I specifically feel comfortable with this because Mike had talked to us about it.
Yeah, this
Right,
one.
But this one's
Yeah, no,
easy,
I
but-
agree. For your point, just,
You know, I'm
for
thinking
this
like
one.
172, when we, we should probably put time limits on things or something for next time to consider.
absolutely. That's it. I mean, I'm sure there's more. Most of the sites fared well yesterday in the big deluge.
Deluge.
Yep. I did end up going back to 106 King Street, sorted that all out. It fared pretty well. I mean, everything, the overflows did overflow as they were designed to. Things were running in the directions they were supposed to be running in. It was an insane amount of rain.
Yeah.
But everything there functioned the way it should. We don't have really many other massive stormwater features such as that right now from the conservation side of things, but
I'd be curious, so it's cleared up now, it was cleared up this morning. I'd be curious to hear from their engineer, I thought these things were supposed to be designed for like 100-year or whatever the criteria is.
oh, I did all the research into that this morning because I was getting a lot. So 100-year storm is 7 inches of rain over 24 hours.
We had 6 and like 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I did. That's in our stormwater. So stormwater is permitted through planning, and the stormwater bylaw references the Mass Stormwater Handbook, and we require it to be designed to that threshold.
Okay.
So,
So we
yeah.
should not be surprised that we saw what we saw.
Oh, no. I mean, same with
And
like
don't be
everything in
surprised if it
Massachusetts.
happens again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, so the stormwater handbook, 7 inches over 24 hours is the 100-year storm. I talked to our, like, the peer review engineer, TEC, who does a lot of our work for planning, and they were saying that in some areas, they're thinking this might have been a 500-year storm.
I think either Lawrence or North Andover, it was like 6.92 inches in 2 hours, in under 2 hours.
And what about a week ago? Like, I never found out how much rain we had a week ago, like on a Saturday. That wasn't it very similar?
There's websites that
How do you figure that?
track that stuff. I don't know them off the top of
I
my head.
tried.
but
But like, so that's twice in 2 weeks, though, that we've had a crazy amount of rain, right?
Well, the last 100-year segment started last Sunday, and now we're in the next Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're gonna have to change the state laws.
Yeah,
It feels
obviously
like
the
that.
Mass handbook is gonna need to be updated because we are not receiving,
Well,
we're
thanks
receiving
for-
100-year storms like they're 10-year storms.
Well, we had 96, we had like 13 inches of rain in 48 hours. It was, that was the first time my basement flooded.
Yeah, but other than that, most sites fared decently well. I mean, if you were out and around in town, it was all a little hairy, but
All right, what else?
Okay,
I'm done.
I make a motion.
I have one item for actually old business. So, about 4 years ago, we voted to accept a donation for a parcel of land 13-014A, which is near 92 Seven Star Road. It's a little triangle of land between two properties that we own. It's about a little less than 2 acres. So we voted to accept it, and John Gabauer was on the board, and as soon as he did that, he drew up the deed and took it to the registry and registered it. But unfortunately, a mistake was made in that we can't do that. We have to sign an acceptance form, and the selectmen have to vote to accept it also. So that wasn't done. So what's been going on is that the person who owns the property keeps getting tax bills for the property, even though they don't think they own it anymore. So fortunately, I checked with Rebecca, and the taxes are up to date on it. The taxes are very small. They're like probably $25, but you know, it's still a pain in the neck. So in order to fix this, we've got to sign this form, and then I've got to bring it before the selectmen in a couple weeks and convince them that this is no big deal and they can sign it, and hopefully get all through that. Bring it to the registry. We'll have to pay to get it registered separately, and then it will be fixed. So please sign this form for me.
Pass it on down, or are you
Your
gonna?
name is on there.
Okay.
Any other items for discussion? All right, so we've got our site visit, just that one at Manor, August 22nd at 5 PM, and then our next meeting will be next day, Wednesday, the 23rd, at 7 PM, here in our favorite place, Town Hall.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Whose signature is this on this certificate of compliance? Who's that?
That's me.
This person? That's